welcome to episode 5 of the Prolific Shift Sunday Sit-Down. I'm Janae Peters, and I'm here this week, once again, to offer you a question that might guide you in some thinking, other types of intentional reflection, meditation, or just in a shift in your world. If you're a person who's really looking for things to change, to be different in your world, I hope that these questions and the action items that accompany them offer you something that is useful, or that feels useful, or that inspires something in you to ask yourself the question that you need to be asked, and to give yourself the action item that you need to do in order to do what needs to be done in your world, whatever that is. So this week's question is, what is one thing you know for sure? Last week's Sunday Sit Down asked us to examine our needs around care and soothing. So the action item for last week as well was to engage in some scanning and awareness around what your body, heart, mind, and soul might need in order to feel soothed. And then to also identify techniques and relationships that can help with that experience. And that was really in response to the fact that it is not difficult for us to imagine how many of us are walking through this world hardened and heavy, and feeling like the weight of the world is on our shoulders, or feeling like there's nowhere really to turn to, and not really knowing what to do with that. Even when people are around us and we have strong support systems, like what is it, how do we get to know ourselves in a way that helps us to understand what we need? And this week we're continuing on that self-awareness track, but we're engaging a different knowledge access point. So Oprah has a book called, or a collection called What I Know for Sure. And I believe this was first introduced to me by my good friend and mentor, James Greenwood. And I've been into the premise of something like this ever since I first found out about it. On the back of this text, Oprah says, "I know for sure that your journey begins with the choice to get up, step out, and live fully." So this idea that your journey begins with a choice is one that really strikes me. And today, in offering this, I'm choosing to really think about how to encourage folks and myself to really think about all the wisdoms that we already have, even when it's tempting to be looking for it elsewhere. And by elsewhere, I don't actually mean that we shouldn't look to others for wisdom, but I think we're always looking outside, like very far outside, when there are lots of wisdoms that are right around us, and ancestral wisdoms that we could benefit from. Also, shout out, I know this is a break, but shout out, this is not an ad for Starbucks by any means, but this is a shout out to the Black Women's Empowerment Circle through Black Girls Teach, because this chai latte is on them, and I'm presencing that space as I offer this week's video as well. Chai tea latte is a thing that helps me feel cared for whatever reason. It's one of my jams. But so this collection of Oprah's collection of what she knows for sure, and the idea of collecting wisdoms from ourselves and those around us, I think is a way to presence the wisdoms and truths that center and honor our ancestors and those with whom we engage in deep relationship. I don't think it's uncommon for us to collect wisdoms, but we collect wisdoms and so-called truths, I think, in a lot of educational environments, and those are limited by who's around us, and those might be interesting. But I think I love the idea of us bringing our wisdoms into spaces, and not always thinking that we only have to gain. There are times where you just need to listen and gain for sure. And then there are times where you have to remember what you have, I think. And I think that's I don't think we can take for granted that we're often looking outward instead of looking inward. I might have to come back to that. I'm not liking where that landed, but we'll see how it goes. So a practice like this, I think, can also surface truths in our own world. So like when we're really thinking about what we know for sure and how we know it, truths in our worlds that, when unearthed, have greater potential to support our alignment, our assignments, and our sense of purpose. So in the spirit of this, I'm going to offer 3 things that I know for sure from my perspective and my experience. I think they're all kind of cliche as they come out, but I think the why behind them is not so cliche. But the first one is that good things come with patience. The second is that lasting change starts within. And in parentheses, I'm going to put be ignited or be gone. And then the third one is that we always know what we need. And maybe I'll put in parentheses there too, even if it's not yet in our awareness. So for that first one, good things come with patience. This one, I continue on the track myself of thinking about my good friend Paris, who would have been turning 33 on Monday, the 26th. And Paris was in a bad car accident when we were in high school. And I remember I was visiting her in the hospital, and she was headed, on her way to getting out of the hospital and on a very long road to recovery. And Paris, if anybody who's watching this knew Paris is a person who did not like to wait, right? And so the recovery for her was like, when am I going to be, when can I do this? When can I do that? And I remember the nurse telling her, good things come with patience. And I think she actually said, like, only bad things happen fast. And I'm going to take off that last part because I do think that there are some times that the universe gives things quickly or where opportunities are presented to us. But I really held on to the good things come with patience because what I started to think about was practice, intention, creating muscle memory, bringing thoughtfulness to space as things develop. And I think what I'm wrestling with the only bad things happen fast is I think that there are folks who have met quickly and have fallen in love, and like that fast thing doesn't have to be a bad thing. But I think what you're also doing is being patient about cultivating the relationship. So I think that there are some nuances there that I just want to honor. But this is one that I do know for sure, that when we take our time, and I don't mean like painful, like I'm not talking about slow like a turtle, but when we take our time and when we bring thought, intention, and energy to things, they can work out for our good. They have the capacity to work out for our good. The second one says that lasting change starts within. I think about this because I think I know this for sure because I know that there are some things that no one can do for us or give to us but us. And I think about this in my own world. I'm a person who tends to enjoy affirmation and validation. And I don't have a shortage of it, right? So it's there. And yet I still sometimes find myself, doubting my capacity, doubting my ability. And what I learned from that is it doesn't matter how many people affirm me. It doesn't matter how many people validate me. If I can't figure out how to validate myself or affirm myself, something like that's not going to shift in me, right? Like that's something that only I can do for me. And I say that, and it doesn't mean that being in relationship with others, like having friends, having family, having just people around me to serve as those mirrors and windows, that doesn't mean that can't help me explore the forces behind any discontent, or that can't help me explore the thought patterns and behaviors that lead to some of the decisions that I make. But it does mean that I can recognize that, but the change has to start with me. Like I'm the only person that can do that can commit to that. And this makes me think of Mary Oliver's poem, What I've Learned So Far. And I think of this poem in particular because this poem's last line says, be ignited or be gone. And I take that with me everywhere I go. It almost doesn't matter where I am. Like that line is coming with me because there's something to that always reminds me of change or action. So the poem itself reads, meditation is old and honorable, so why should I not sit every morning of my life on the hillside looking into the shining world? Because properly attended to, delight as well as havoc is suggestion. Can one be passionate about the just, the ideal, the sublime, and the holy, and yet commit to no labor in its cause? I don't think so. All summations have a beginning, all effect has a story, all kindness begins with the sown seed. Thought buds towards radiance. The gospel of light is the crossroads of indolence or action. Be ignited or be gone. When I'm moving from a place of authenticity and love, I feel ignited. And there's no mistaking that. It feels like a literal fire inside me. I literally feel fired up and ready to go. And when I can't access that, I know that something's off. And that doesn't mean that I'm not good at whatever it is that I'm doing, or that I don't care about it, or that I can't make space for it. But it does signal to me that it or I might be out of alignment. Like when I'm feeling drained, it's because something is out of alignment, and that takes some interrogation. And so instead of doing all the things, I've been working to become more aware of alignment and feeling ignited and doing something with that. So like that change can only start with me. And part of it is I recognize what that feels like inside me. And that doesn't mean that people outside can't see like, oh, you're not into this but actually that might be true that people, for me in particular, can't see that, but I know what that feels like. And so lasting change, there's some things that only we can do that encourage change in our worlds. And for the third one, we always know what we need. I think a lot about self-awareness, self-care, dreams, daydreaming, pain points, gains, needs, desires, like the deep desires that we sometimes feel like we can't or shan't name. And we, on some level, always know what we need, but we need to be in conversation with our bodies, with our minds, with our hearts, with our souls, to really access that kind of knowledge. So the body knows, but are we listening to the body, right? The heart might know, but how much have we been in conversation with our hearts? Our mind might know, our intuition might know, but when's the last time we asked it, what's going on for it? So I've been teaching for the past week in a program that's dear to my heart at Kenyon College. And so I've been working with one of my new favorite collaborators, even though I've only known her for a week, Professor Starr. We've just finished reading the part where Baby Suggs Holy, the grandmother in this neo-slave narrative, has gone to the clearing and has invited folks in the community, all formerly enslaved folks, to come and hear a word, and not the traditional word, but her kind of word. And this really makes me think of that bodily, spiritual, and psychological awareness piece of like us always knowing what we need. So this passage says, "Here," she said, "in this here space we flesh that weeps, laughs, flesh that dances on bare feet in grass, love it hard. Yonder they do not love your flesh, they despise it. They don't love your eyes, they just as soon pick them out. No more do they love the skin on your back. Yonder they flay it, and oh my people, they do not love your hands. Those they only use, tie, bind, chop off, and leave empty. Love your hands, love them, raise them up and kiss them. Touch others with them, pat them together, stroke them on your face, 'cause they don't love that either. You got to love it, you. And no, they ain't in love with your mouth. Yonder out there, they will see it broken and break it again. What you say out of it, they will not heed. What you scream from it, they do not hear. What you put into it to nourish your body, they will snatch away and give you leavings instead. No, they do not love your mouth. You got to love it. This is flesh I'm talking about here. Flesh that needs to be loved. Feet that need to rest and to dance. Backs that need support. Shoulders that need arms. Strong arms, I'm telling you. And oh, my people out yonder, hear me. They do not love your neck unnoosed and straight. So love your neck. Put a hand on it, grace it, stroke it, and hold it up. And all your inside parts that they just as soon slop for hogs, you got to love them. The dark, dark liver, love it. Love it, and the beat and beating heart, love that too. More than eyes or feet. More than lungs that have yet to draw free air. More than your life-holding womb and your life-giving private parts, hear me now, love your heart. For this the prize. Saying no more, she stood up and then danced with her twisted hip the rest of what her heart had to say, while the others opened their mouths and gave her the music. Long notes held until the four-part harmony was perfect enough for their deeply loved flesh. And when I think about that, and I did, it felt important to read that part out loud, but I just think of that ancestral wisdom, right, that gets passed down to us, and about how we know what we need. And I think part of how we know what we need is because we know what we don't get from this world. And so engaging in any choice, right, like back to that Oprah Winfrey's choice, like that part of the journey, making the choice, that choice to have a conversation with ourselves, like on a deep level, with our minds, with our bodies, with our spirits, with those around us. Like, I think that helps us to understand what we need. And that is something that I know for sure. So again, the question for this week asks you all, What is one thing you know for sure? If you know many more things that you want to offer, please go for it. But this asks, what is one thing you know for sure? And the action item is to work to have a conversation with someone you care about and or whose perspective you find interesting about what you both know for sure and what you can do with that knowledge. All right, y'all. I'll see y'all next week. And please, as always, let me know what you're thinking about related to this question and the action. Peace. If you liked anything you heard, please don't hesitate to comment, like, subscribe, or support in any of these ways, and especially through your love and care. Peace, and I'll see y'all again soon.